Hello everybody and welcome to Friday's edition of the Chris Pritchard Cycling News Show. Week 1 of 2021 is in the books, and what a week it's been. I'm just glad we don't do politics on this channel. Anyway, it's cycling news from this point. Well, it's actually not. There's a weird story I want to talk about in here. Mental story. Now, before we do get into the news, first up, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're nearly at 35,000 subs, and if we can hit that by the end of January, I'll be well happy. And don't forget, more subs equals more views. More views means our channel gets pushed out to more people on YouTube. More people see it, more people subscribe, more people view. We get more money, which means we can take the level of production. Like, I know the level of production is... But don't forget, it's just a one-man band. All right? So if we can step it up a little bit, if we can get more viewers, more subscribers, more money, then we take it to the next level. Maybe even I could leave my own house once lockdown is finished and go on some adventures. Who knows? But anyway, I'd really appreciate it if you've not done already that you subscribe to the channel. Right, news time. First up in the news, let's talk COVID-19. Yay! But in a positive, mainly a positive light, as UAE become the first team in the World Tour to vaccinate their staff and their riders. So over on UAE Team Emirates website, they now say that a total of 27 riders, including the Tour de France winner, Tadej Pogacar, plus 32 other staff members have now received the vaccine. That vaccine being the UAE Ministry of Health and Prevention approved COVID-19 vaccine, which was developed by Sinopharm CNBG, which I believe is a Chinese vaccine. Commenting on receiving the vaccine, UAE Team Emirates principal Mauri Gianetti said, "As a UAE team, we are enormously proud of the efforts the nation and its leadership has taken at every level to both combat the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and be the leader in the efforts to bring life back to normal." Which is really the first sign that we could be seeing racing getting back to normal. Not necessarily any time in the near future, i.e. the next 6 months, I wouldn't have thought, especially with fans being there. I think we're going to run a similar program to what we saw in 2020 with limited interaction with fans. I mean, was a limited interaction with fans at some of the Giro and the Vuelta stages. I mean, even the Tour de France, there was far too many spectators there. But hopefully, it's now going to mean that if there are spectators there and they're not wearing masks and they're shouting in the riders' faces as they're going up Alpe d'Huez or wherever, that they're not going to get spat on and infected with the disease, which hopefully might mean that them riders can now not have to shield as much as they do when they're at races. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the rest of the World Tour. Are the UCI going to make it mandatory? Can you make it mandatory to have a vaccine? I don't know. We're not even going to get into the whole vaccine anti-vaxxers. But talking of which, this is rich coming from this guy. Riccardo Riccò, you might have seen this Facebook post that he posted a couple of days ago. Now, if you don't know who Riccardo Riccò is, he's a disgraced Italian cyclist that was caught in 2008, I believe, for doping. He also managed to hospitalise himself after a blood transfusion had gone wrong after his 20-month ban from the sport. Not bad. He tried to inject his own blood back into his body, but didn't take the right precautions. When doing so, that blood had got contaminated somehow, essentially poisoning himself. Think on that one. Just bear that in mind. Think how stupid that is. Anyway, he posted this Facebook post, and this has been translated in Google Translate, but you get the gist of what was said. Hey, it's me, Riccardo Riccò. I read a lot of people who say that the vaccination, it must be a mandatory. But we are joking, right? I do what I think in my body. No one can force me to do something that if it were to have a negative effect on my body, it would only be me to lose. Allora, you can also get injected. But I do not want to shit, but don't want to break the dick of people like me who have informed themselves very well from my medical friends, and that they will not get a good fucking cow step and close. Tutto bene. Mamma mia. Mamma mia. What is this guy on? What is this guy on? Right? willing to trust himself to inject blood back into his body, not knowing that it's contaminated to all hell. Right? He's willing to do that, but he's not willing to listen to the advice of these doctors that have spent months and months and months and millions and millions and millions of pounds researching and making sure this vaccine works. Blood? I'll take some of that. Vaccine? It what? Stops me getting... No, I don't want that. What an absolute dickhead. The irony of it. The irony of it. Now, last, before we move on from this whole COVID-19 vaccine, this has absolutely nothing to do with cycling. And I shouldn't be laughing. I really shouldn't be laughing because it's a horrible stuff. I shouldn't be laughing. I'm not laughing. It's a disgusting story. But over on the BBC News website, check this out. Hunt for fake vaccine fraudster who injected woman 92 in Subiton. I think that's how you pronounce that, I don't know. A fraudster claiming to work for the NHS injected a 92-year-old woman with a fake COVID-19 vaccine. You can't tell if he's trying to be a peaky blinder or he's trying to be an athlete. And I guess I've got to think to my gran, before she died, she was 92. Would she let somebody in her house? Well, actually, she wouldn't. She barely let us in her house. But if a guy turned up to your house claiming to be from the NHS, dressed in a tracksuit, I'd be just a tiny little bit wary, especially with that haircut. Just be a tiny little bit wary. But the fact that this man went into this person's house, said I'm from the NHS, charged her £100 to inject her, claiming it was a COVID-19 vaccine, and that the NHS would refund her, and he'd be back next week to do the second dose and charge her another £100. The cheek of some people, the audacity of some people. Like, I mean, it's people like that we wouldn't mind went missing. Do you know what I mean? Like, just fire them off into space. They're absolutely no use whatsoever to anybody. Like, does he go home and sit down with his kids and he's like, oh, kids, come on, let's watch Disney Plus together? Probably not. If he's willing to knock on someone's door at 92 and say, I've got a vaccine for you, love, inject it into her, could have been anything. Could have been anything. But anyway, it's not cycling related, but I just felt like I had to share it because what an absolute dickhead. Let's move on with the rest of the cycling news. We've talked about this whole thing for far too long now. Anyway, knobheads. Not you, him. Let's move on. Next up in the news, and Director Sportive of Israel Startup Nation is claiming that the old Chris Froome is coming back. Now, over on Eurosport, they're reporting that after struggling on form and fitness in 2020 following a terrible crash back in 2019, Chris Froome has moved to Israel Startup Nation ahead of 2021 season, which we already knew about, and is rapidly starting to look like his old self. In the report, DS Rick Verbrugge says that the signs are positive for the four-time, not positive as in COVID, or EPO, just positive as in he's getting his fitness back for the four-time Tour de France winner. So rather than spending time in Spain with his teammates, Chris Froome has been over in California training on his own. And talking on the fact that he's over in California, Verbrugge said the centre in Santa Monica is so good that we chose to keep him there for another month instead of coming back to the training camp in Girona. Chris is on the right track to become the old Chris again. So what do we think? Could we see the old Chris Froome back in 2021? Could we see Chris Froome win the 2021 Tour de France, making it 5 Tour de France victories? We spoke about this quite a few times on the show, and the majority of people in the comments, and in fact leave your comments again on it, are saying that we'll never see Froome regain what he had prior to that crash. He's just too old, he can't recover. The crash affected him way more than what a lot of people think it did, and let's say how it is, he's seen out his career at Israel Startup Nation thanks to a hefty paycheck. Otherwise, he probably would have retired at the end of 2020. I don't know. He still looks hungry for it. He still obviously clearly wants to win 5 Tour de France's, but is he capable of doing it? Is this all just smoke and mirrors? Or could we potentially see Chris Froome circa 2015, 16, 17? I don't know. Be interesting to find out though. And if we do, what is he going to be like in Israel Startup Nation? Is he going to be a solo Joe, just like Tadej Pogacar at UAE when he's riding? Or is he going to have that team around him? It's going to be interesting to find out, I guess. But what are your thoughts on it? Do we think we will see the old Chris Froome, or is this just nothing more than just... Here's another question, though. And you can't help thinking it, probably thanks to the likes of Riccardo Riccò and Lance Armstrong. But Chris Froome is staying away from the rest of his team on his own, quietly going about his business. Now, I'm not saying he's doing anything, but those skeptics amongst us will all think, do you know what I mean? It's just human nature nowadays in the cycling world. And it sucks, because if he comes back, everyone's going to be like, yeah, but he went to California and he was getting doped off his face. When that probably isn't the case. But do you know what I mean? It's difficult. And I don't want to cast aspersions on him. Is that the right word? I think so. But at the same time, as I say, the skeptics amongst us will think that. I'm just saying what other people will think. I don't think that. I think he's going about his business, doing what he's doing, and listen, innocent until proven guilty in my eyes. So, do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm getting myself into a massive hole here. Let's move on to the next news story. Next up, and one of the men of 2020, Wout van Aert looks set to be staying at Jumbo-Visma for the foreseeable future. There was talks a few weeks ago that he potentially might be going to Team Ineos Grenadiers in 2022. However, talks with Jumbo-Visma, they seem to be going well, to the point where it looks like he's not going anywhere. Over on Cycling News, they say that Wout van Aert's contract with Jumbo-Visma ends this year, but the team are keen to renew it early and massively increase Wout van Aert's salary to secure his services during the peak of his career. Based on other riders' salaries, Wout van Aert could demand a new salary of at least $3 million per season, making him one of their highest paid riders in the peloton. Chief Financial Officer of Jumbo supermarket chain has revealed that contract talks with Wout van Aert look very good, and the Jumbo-Visma team tried to fight off the interest of rivals, including Ineos Grenadiers, from one of its team leaders. Now, if any team was going to swoop in and steal Wout van Aert from under Jumbo-Visma, it's always going to be Ineos Grenadiers, with essentially a blank checkbook to sign anybody they want. If they wanted him, I reckon they could have got him. However, we've seen the likes of CCC and NTT all fold in this year, but it appears that Jumbo-Visma are going from strength to strength thanks to their main sponsor, Jumbo, the supermarket. Their turnover has boosted by 15% in 2020 to €9.68 billion. And clearly the supermarket chain want Wout van Aert as part of the team so they can use his face in Belgium. Like, he is in Belgium to what David Beckham is in England. So you see his face on a billboard next to a supermarket, you're going to go and shop there. I once saw Ed Sheeran in Aldi, and since then I've been an avid Aldi fan. And that's how it works. You see Wout van Aert on a poster, he shops at Jumbo, I'm going to shop at Jumbo. But leave your comments down below. Do you even care if Wout van Aert left? Next up in the news, a news story that shouldn't be a news story, but it is a news story for no apparent reason. Or is it? Or should it be a news story? I don't know. But anyway, Cycling News are reporting that Belgian rider Justin Laevens comes out as gay. Ahead of the Belgian Cyclocross National Championships this weekend, the first Belgian pro cyclist has come out as gay. Justin Laevens, I'm sorry Justin, I don't know how to pronounce your name. It's such a difficult one. Laevens? Let's go for that. Defined his sexuality in an interview with sport.nu.be. Now I've got a good mind not to even report this story because I don't really know what to say about it, because there's probably no one, not that nobody cares, and I'm sure there are young gay athletes out there who are terrified to let everybody know their sexual orientation, which is mental in this day and age. So hopefully this is going to inspire a few people to do that. But I don't know, it's just weird that the way that it's termed coming out as gay. Like, oh, we all thought you were straight and now you're not. What? I don't know. It just doesn't, that term doesn't sit right with me. I don't know if that's like a term that doesn't even register with a gay person. I don't know. But He's not coming out as gay. He wasn't straight and now he's coming out as gay. It's simply saying my sexual orientation is this. That's it. And like that shouldn't matter. Especially when it comes to cycling. But if, like I say, if it does inspire other people to do the same and be like, yeah, I don't give a shit. Now, leave your comments down below on this one. Does it even need reporting? Not that we don't care, because of course we care, but is it something that needs reporting on? And if you were in a cycling team and someone was openly gay, would you even care? I mean, if your answer is yes to that, then leave your homophobic comments down below and probably unsubscribe to the channel. We don't need that type of people here, do we? Like, fair play to the lad for doing it, and if it inspires other people to do so, then great success. And then finally, let's talk about track cycling as British Cycling restructure their staffing for the men's sprint team for this year's Tokyo Olympics. So British Cycling have announced that it's made restructures to its staffing after the dismissal of former head coach Kevin Stewart due to gross misconduct and a long-term pattern of inappropriate behaviour. And once again, I'd like to make it clear here on the Chris Pritchard Cycling News Show, Kevin Stewart was a professional with me when he was a teammate and a coach, and was never inappropriate with me. So a strength and conditioning coach is now taking over the men's team sprint. Now, it's hard to know exactly what his credentials are, and far be it from me to comment thinking that the likes of Lee Povey, of Kaylee over in Wales, these guys are more than capable of slotting into that. Stephen Park, the performance director, wanted to keep it in-house so there was as little disruption to the team as possible. But you're bringing in a strength and conditioning coach. Now, like I say, I don't know what his credentials are when it comes to lead to one, management of a team, and two, his actual ability to manage and structure training sessions for these sprint riders. But I can't help thinking that there's some really, really, really talented cycling coaches out there who deserve the chance to be put in that position and give those riders a better chance of going for gold in the Tokyo Olympics. It just, like I say, this guy might have more knowledge than we're giving him credit for. You just don't know. He spent a lot of time, by the sounds of it, working with the team, but it's a different kettle of fish when you're not a cyclist yourself, when you've never experienced that. And like I say, the likes of Lee Povey and Kaylee Manners down in Wales, these guys have been coaching for years. These guys have raced for years. They know sprint cycling, and someone like that could have slotted into the team with very little disruption. But for some reason, they've kept it in-house. And I don't know. It's a bizarre selection. Looking from the outside, again, I feel bad for slagging someone off when he could be more than capable of doing the job. But you've got Jan van Eyden, who obviously looks after the women's. Why can't he oversee both of them? Again, a guy with so much more experience when it comes to sprinting than the guy that they've put in charge now. It's all going tits up down there at British Cycling, isn't it? From the dizzy heights of 2012, with Shane, with Dave, Jan van Eyden was in there, Ian Dyer was in there looking after the sprint team at that time, I think. Or was it Pursuit by then? I can't remember. I think it was sprint. And now they just can't keep hold of sprint coaches. Justin Grace got demoted, I think, moved along. Jan's not taking charge of the men's. Kev's just been kicked out for being a naughty boy. So it really is let's say it's a shit show down there at British Cycling at the minute, and it's not going to help those riders focus on what they need to be focusing on for winning an Olympic gold medal. But leave your comments down below on this one. If you could put in charge a new sprint coach within British Cycling, who would you put there? If anybody says me, you'd be a fool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure if you've not done already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you dislike this video for whatever reason, hit that dislike button. But above all, leave your comments down below on all the news stories that we've covered today. Have a good weekend. And don't forget, hit that notification bell so you know when we go live with our videos. My streams at the minute are pretty impromptu. I try and schedule them when I can, but if you want to catch a stream, make sure you hit that notification bell so when I do go live, you should get the notification and you can join the live stream. Thanks for watching. Here's